Hey guys, it's Vexed, and today we're going to be talking about the 5-episode miniseries produced by Marvel called Echo. This show came out not too long ago. It was a interesting watch. I have some thoughts on it. It's kind of a mixed bag, but we'll get into it here. So I'll be reviewing this show here in a second. I'll give you my thoughts, and you can tell me what you thought about the show in the comments below. So what is Echo actually about? Well, it's about a deaf Choctaw girl named Maya, whose family was living a life of crime, but not really her family, but really her father. One night when she was young, she wanted something from the store. Her mom went out to the store, and unfortunately some gang or whatever, cut the brake, and they couldn't stop, and they ended up crashing, and her mom died, and she was in the car, and she lost her leg. So Maya lost her leg in the car, and she blames herself for her mother's death because she wanted something from the store and her mom left the house and got killed. So she'd grown up with all this trauma and guilt about what happened to her mom. Her father continued to live a life of crime for some reason. I don't know why. Ultimately, her father is in business with Wilson Fisk, and Wilson Fisk takes a liking to Maya. He kind of becomes an uncle figure in a way, and she kind of learns under him and becomes a part of her father's gang. And she finds out that her father was killed by someone. She goes on a manhunt to figure out who it is. She learns in the Hawkeye show, she learned that Wilson Fisk did it. She then goes to try to kill Wilson Fisk, shoots him in the eye, and then she makes her way back home to Oklahoma. And that's kind of where we pick up. She's kind of on the run, trying to find her way, trying to figure out what she wants to do. And she makes her way back to Oklahoma, and we pick up from there. So it's kind of a mixed bag. There's some positives, there's some negatives. I actually enjoyed watching the show, but there's a lot of problems. Let's start with the positives, okay? Let's start with the positive of the show. Though it was a mixed bag, there was things to enjoy. For example, this show does a lot of cool stuff with sound, okay? Maya is deaf, so some of the times during the show, they will mute the audio, and we experience the show from her perspective. And I think it's really cool and interesting every time they do it. It's really, really cool. That's a positive, okay? They put us in the perspective of the main character. Another positive is the Native American indigenous representation in culture that is pushed forward. It's really cool, really good stuff. I think the show is at its best when it's leaning into the indigenous culture and that representation. It's really cool to see that stuff. It's a positive. Another thing that's good is the camera work that has some really cool shots and good one-ers, especially in episode 1, where we have that awesome fight scene between Echo and Daredevil. That's really cool. All that is great. Good camera work, good direction in that regard. Another positive would be the acting. We have to talk about Alaqua Cox for a second. This is her first role, this Maya character. She did not act before, and she is a natural. She is just a natural at acting. Let me explain something. You cannot teach likability. You can't teach it. Either you're likable or not. She has a natural gift of being likable, okay? When she's on the screen, you want to root for her, you like her, she has a nice presence about her, she has a really good vibe, and she's likable. I can't stress it enough. You cannot teach likable. That's what she is. She's very likable. All the actors across the board are great. Great performances, great acting. I can't complain at all about what I'm seeing on the screen in terms of the acting. All that is top notch. So you have good camera work, good acting, good representation of Native Americans and indigenous people, good sound mixing and sound editing. All the sound design is really, really awesome. So those are some of the positives. While watching the show, I ultimately enjoyed it most of the time, even though you will see here in a second, there's a lot of problems in the show, a lot of them. But overall, I enjoyed myself when watching it. It's weird. I enjoyed the experience of watching the show. Now, as far as the negatives go. Oh, wait, one more positive. There's a fight scene with Daredevil, and it's not the best scene in the show. That is a positive. That the Daredevil scene, which everybody was looking forward to, right? That was not the best scene. So there's other good stuff in the show beyond the Daredevil cameo. Now on to the negatives. There are problems with the story and with the script. That's really the issue with this story. The The script, well, let's start with episode 1. Episode 1 is basically a recap of what happened in Hawkeye. They literally take scenes from Hawkeye and split it in with the new shots. It's very choppy, it's very weird. It's like a glorified recap. You can see that there was a lot of problems with this production. You would think if the first episode is kind of a recap like that, they wanted this show to stand on its own. This was actually Marvel's first spotlight show, which means that you don't have to watch anything previously to understand what's going on. You don't have to do any homework or go and watch any other additional content. You should be able to watch this on its own. That's why it's called a spotlight show. Well, in order to do that, you see, Maya had a lot of crucial moments that happened in Hawkeye. So in order for it to actually be standalone, they had to take those scenes and put it in the show proper. So episode 1 is a weird blend of new scenes, but stuff from Hawkeye is very weirdly edited. It's kind of a mess, but as someone who has seen Hawkeye, I was okay with that because it served as a recap. But if you're watching that show for the first time, episode 1 is weird. There's other problems with the script. Echo is going to Oklahoma, but at the same time, she wants to become the Queenpin, and she's trying to make moves from Oklahoma. If you want to take over the Kingpin's business or his operation, you kind of have to be in Hell's Kitchen, New York. It made no sense as to why she moved or she ran back to Oklahoma and then tried to make waves onto the Fisk business. And it didn't track at all. It didn't make any sense whatsoever why she was trying to do that from Oklahoma. It just did not work. That's one negative. What else? Her powers. In the comics, Echo had the power to, I believe, mimic or copy. It's kind of similar to Taskmaster, who's already a character in the MCU. So they wanted a different approach. They decided to lean into this whole, her ancestors and the Choctaw people and how they had this ability from back in the day, where she now has, because her powers is echoing through her ancestry. The women that came before her, she has those powers that they had, and she has the abilities that they had, and natural talents she now has because their powers are echoing through all of her past ancestors through her. So all the powers and abilities are echoing because the Choctaw people have that ability somehow. On paper, it sounds cool. In execution, it wasn't that great in the end. They introduced the Choctaw people at the beginning of the series, and it showed this supernatural elements for a street level show. I'm wondering how they're going to actually incorporate this into the show. I was worried, and it turns out I should have been. When she taps into this power, her grandma and her cousin who's there in the room, they get the power, and it just did not land whatsoever. It always takes me out of a show when characters who didn't have abilities to begin with, in the end, have power. Like, let's say you have a sidekick the whole entire movie who doesn't have powers, and then in the end, the main character lends his power to that person, and then that person starts kicking ass. It never lands. I hate when they do that. So when I see grandma and cousin Bonnie get the abilities too, it makes sense because they're all related, and the power is echoing through all of their family and their generations previously. But for whatever reason, it just does not land whatsoever. It kind of falls flat and takes me out of the show completely. So I did not love how her powers were incorporated into the show. In the end, she tries to use her powers on Wilson Fisk to get him to kind of like release, because she had the conversation with her mom, and her mom, who had a power to heal, she told her that she needed to let go and stop blaming herself for what happened to her and let go of the guilt and let go of all that child trauma. So that's what she does. And she tries to help Wilson Fisk by having him let go of the trauma as a child, but it backfires. He doesn't want that. Kind of runs off. It's kind of a weird ending. It's kind of hard to know exactly what happened, but my understanding is she tried to heal him in a way to say, let go of that child trauma, Wilson Fisk, but it doesn't work. He kind of runs off and kind of ends kind of flat. It's a weird ending. So the conclusion of the Wilson Fisk storyline with Maya, with the way her powers come about and how it's executed, it falls flat for me. I do not like it. I wish there was some other way to handle that, but it is what it is. So another negative, this show is TVMA. So it's supposed to be mature, right? It turns out that all of the dark scenes that were promised were in the trailer. So that tells me that this was kind of a marketing ploy. They didn't know how they were going to advertise this show to the public. So they came up with, oh, we'll tell them that this is the dark show. This is the edgy show. It's TVMA. It's really dark and gritty. And they put all of the dark scenes in the trailer to give people the belief that this entire show would be dark. But that is not the case. This show is not that dark. Again, all of the dark scenes are in the trailer. I have to believe that it was just a strategic way to market the show because Echo wasn't getting much buzz. We'll market it as the dark show, and that'll bring people in and get people interested because honestly, it's really not that dark. Yes, there's some violence, but I've seen worse on Netflix. I think the Daredevil and Punisher stuff is darker than this. So don't be fooled. It's not that dark. But yeah, I think it was just a marketing ploy. They had to figure out a way to market the show. And that's what they came up with to say, hey guys, look at this. It's super dark. It's the edgy Marvel Studios. Come watch. But really, it's not that dark. Yeah, so when it comes to the show, is this really weird things happening with the script? For example, Bonnie, the cousin that was introduced in episode 1, she isn't really relevant the rest of the way. She's not a big factor in the character progression of Maya. So I'm not sure why they made a big deal of Bonnie in the first episode. It really ended up being about Maya's relationship with her grandma and Maya's relationship with her mom who passed away. Bonnie kind of gets kicked to the curb. She's not that important. Yeah, so overall, it's a mixed bag. There's a lot of good stuff and I enjoy watching it. But when you really pull back the curtain, there are problems with this show. It's not a great watch. It's not great. The Daredevil scene, the fight scene, that is a highlight. The scenes with her mom who's passed and the scenes with her grandma are the highlights. Those are emotional scenes, a lot of good character work, really good acting in those scenes. But the script is the biggest problem. I have to be honest, Wilson Fisk in Hawkeye and Echo has not been the best representation. I think he's been better in the Daredevil stuff. And I don't know how you fix that. Hopefully with the Daredevil show in the MCU, they do a better job with Wilson Fisk. I don't know how his eye is healed. In the end of Hawkeye, he gets shot dead in the eye, but somehow, some way, his eye has been healed. They don't really tell you why that is. I don't know how the hell he got his eye fixed. Okay, they don't tell us. Maybe we'll find out in the Daredevil series why his eye is healed, but it's kind of weird. He gets shot point blank range and he's still alive, but they don't tell us how he is. It's just weird. Like, why not tell us how that happened? Don't let me be confused. I was confused. I don't want to be confused. Yeah, so I enjoyed the watch. Is it great? No. Out of 5, what would I give this show? I would give this show a 2.5 out of 5. Or maybe a 3 if I'm being nice. Not the best. Not great. I enjoyed it for what it was. I enjoyed the watch somehow, some way. When I was watching it, I enjoyed the watch. But the finale really fell flat. And that's probably what takes it to a 2.5 out of 5. 2.5. 2.5 stars is what I'm going to leave you with. Would I recommend this show? Sure, it's decent watch. You can check it out. You can tell me what you think about it, okay? If you have watched Echo, what were your thoughts? Did you enjoy it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Was it bad? Are you tired of Marvel? Did you think it was the best MCU show to date? Let me know. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will talk to you later. Peace.